A very good evening to you. I'm Pearson Bowen. Some measure of relief is underway regarding the controversial municipal solid waste management tax. The announcement came today after a decision by Cabinet. Shane Seeley has that story.
Government now has to go back to Parliament to validate the changes, which include a 100% waiver for pensioners with land valued at $190,000 or less, and a 50% waiver for farmers. According to Minister Sinclair, government is also making it much more easier for Barbadians to pay the tax.
To make it a lot easier on persons to actually pay the tax, that we would extend the payment period, so without the incurrence of penalties and interest. So therefore, you will be able to use between now and the end of December to pay. So you can pay monthly, weekly, quarterly, whatever suits your particular budget, and that's for all persons affected and institutions affected by the tax. And of course, the minister, which is myself, will waive the any penalties and interest.
However, the finance minister has made it clear that there will be no full rollback on the solid waste tax. He says government needs resources to deal with the potential waste crisis facing the country.
If government does not have the resources to address these issues, then you're going to have serious problems. I want Barbadians to understand, sincerely and genuinely, we have a major waste disposal and waste management problem in Barbados. And we are facing potential crisis if we do not find the resources to deal with these issues.
Now, given some reaction to the changes to the solid waste tax is the Chief Executive Officer of the Barbados Agricultural Society, James Paul. He says the 50% waiver across the board for farmers is good news.
What we are seeing is that a lot of land that was selling down idle is going back into production. Actually have some indication, even in terms of major plantations, have indicated that they would really like to start to look and see how they can seriously bring into production land that was previously idle. So the point is really that that in itself will at least provide encouragement to the agricultural sector, and I think would also encourage investment in the sector in itself. The poultry farmers certainly will be pleased about that, but even more especially dairy farmers, because we know that the dairy farmers themselves, they are on a very fine balance when it comes to the whole question of profitability. And I think that the fact that that particular concession has come at this point in time, I think will please farmers greatly.
Shane Seeley, CBC News.
And opposition leader Mia Mottley welcomed the news that some pensioners whose properties are valued at $190,000 or less will not now pay the tax. However, she says there are still thousands more pensioners who still have to pay the full tax if their properties are above this value. She says at least under the Land Tax Act, these pensioners get the first $190,000 deducted from the taxable value, and then they also get a 50% rebate on the tax. According to Ms. Mottley, there is still too much vagueness in the minister's statement, and she still awaits the amendments. Ms. Mottley says the relief appears to be knee-jerk and that taxation must be clear, certain and consistent. Prime Minister Frendel Stuart appears set to meet with the Barbados Workers' Union General Secretary Senator Sir Roy Trotman to determine where that union stands in relation to the social partnership. That's because the BWU was a no-show at today's full meeting of the social partnership, a move expected since its breakaway from CTUSAB, which is the Congress of Trade Unions and Staff Associations of Barbados. Again, Shane Seeley reports.
Today, several top officials from government, the unions and the private sector gathered at the Lloyd Erskine Sandford Centre for the consultation, chaired by Prime Minister Stuart, from about 9:30 this morning up until close to 2 this afternoon. He gave them the assurance that he intends to engage the island's largest private sector union, that being the Barbados Workers' Union, on the kind of role it wants to play within the social partnership. In his address, he said that during the proposed meeting, not only will they discuss the union's role, but also the fact that the BWU still remains outside of the Congress of Trade Unions and Staff Associations of Barbados. The BWU issue apart, Prime Minister Stuart believes there is a good social partnership in place and pledged government's commitment to its continued growth and development. Meanwhile, head of the Barbados Private Sector Association, Alex MacDonald, expressed hope that many more of these types of meetings would be held so that they could solve the problems on a more fundamental basis. President of C2SAB, Cedric Murrell, stated that he looked forward to charting the type of progress made during the meeting, given the social partnership's theme of revitalization and growth in 2014, 2015, and beyond. Shane Seeley, CBC News.
In just under a year, thousands of new and current residents in the south of the island will benefit from a boost in their water supply. This thanks to a partnership between the Barbados Water Authority and a private company. Ryan Broom has the story.
A study done by the Barbados Water Authority has shown that there will be a need for an additional 13,000 housing lots in the St. Philip and Christchurch areas. As a result, the BWA will be partnering with Ionics Pipelines to provide an additional 5,000 gallons to what will be new schools, housing areas, and commercial spaces.
The BWA's project manager for Capital Works and Mains Replacement, Charles Leslie, says the multi-million-dollar project will involve the laying of 19,000 meters of main. He says 120 BWA workers will be working on the project, along with input from contractors in terms of excavation.
This project, in total, we are looking at about 28 million Barbados dollars. There are 4 private sector entities involved in terms of the excavation, the reinstatement, the backfilling, and any civil works. Those 4 companies are Rayside, Cow Williams, Infra, and Afris Construction. But from the Barbados Water Authority's end, we are dealing with all of the pipe installation. We're fitting up all of the pipe and making all of the connections to the public supply, that type of stuff.
Mr. Leslie says the well at the Bell will be the main source of supply for the new developments, while the desalination plant will be used to supplement any resulting shortfall.
The water from the Bell well would have traditionally gone into the Bridgetown areas, but what we're hoping to do is to increase the output of the desalination plant, that reserve capacity that we have there, to push water into the Bridgetown areas, and that we're doing an exchange like, so that water that used to go from the Bell well into those areas, we're now going to be pushing further eastward into that Christchurch corridor.
He says since they started on June 30th, the weather has been the greatest challenge, but there are other factors that may come into play as they continue to progress further south.
Our next major challenge is going to be coordinating with the public transport and the other utilities, especially when we are going along that Maxwell Top Road route, because we understand that, especially when you get in the Oystins area, there are old pipelines that went down to a depot, or whatever you call it, in that particular area, just in Oystins. So we have to grapple with that. We have to grapple with natural gas. We have to grapple with the light and power lines.
So if all goes according to plan, in another 10 months, new developments in Christchurch and St. Philip will have additional water supply capacity if the weather holds. I am Ryan Broom for CBC News.
Calls for a return of the King and Queen of the Bands of the Cropover Festival. Band leader Trevor Chase of Outrage voiced support for that move, saying it is an important aspect for many bands. The call is supported by other band leaders who were a part of the festival stage program. Chase, who was also among a group of panelists at a discussion on culture organized by the Catholic Church, says there are certain things the National Cultural Foundation has promised to bring back to the festival, but nothing has materialized. Meanwhile, veteran promoter Mark Williams, who was among that audience, voiced concern about the future of the Cropover Festival.
Now we are seeing now, we've got our festival is a massive festival. In fairness to everybody, it's a massive festival. We have Californians who are now refusing to use the word festival and using the word carnival. So we now become a mini Trinidad as far as our festival is concerned.
We'll have more news just ahead, but first we want to hear from you now on the question, do you believe that the BWU should rejoin C2SAB? Text yes or no to the short code 8111. We'll have the results at the end of the news.
The most wonderful time of the year. The clock is ticking and the time is near. Sunday, July 20th. It's Soca on the Hill. Guess the band is coming. Edwin Yearwood and Crossfire. Cassie, Mikey, and Blood of Soca Cartel. Blacks, Little Rick, Skinny Fabulous, Gorg, Red Plastic Bag, the best of Crop Over, and more still to come. Get your tickets before someone else does and leaves you crying. Sunday, July 20th. Farley Hill National Park, Barbados. Soca on the Hill. A million ways to party.
Unlock the mystery of the Cola Nut with Clayton's Cola Tonic. For over 130 years, Clayton's has been adding life to your cocktails. Whether mixed with juice, alcohol, or straight up over ice, just add some Clayton's to your life.
A demonstration against the ongoing Israeli invasion of the Gaza Strip and the crimes committed by Israel against Palestine is planned for next week. General Secretary of the Caribbean Movement for Peace and Integration, David Denny, tells CBC News that they intend to demonstrate outside of the Israeli consulate.
We have already applied for permission from the Royal Barbados Police Force to hold a demonstration on Thursday next week at 3 p.m. outside of the consulate of Israel, close to the back of the Parliament of Barbados.
A solidarity press conference is also slated for this coming Saturday at Pelican Village by that group and the Caribbean Against Apartheid in Palestine organization.
At that press conference, we will explain our solidarity with the people of Palestine, and we will be updating the Barbadian community on the present conditions in Palestine and also about the apartheid war against the Palestinian people, a war that has been launched by Israel.
All tertiary education providers in Barbados will soon have to be registered with the Barbados Accreditation Council before their qualifications are placed in the national framework. BAC Chairman Yvonne Walks says it's required as the island presses ahead with the National Qualifications Framework outlined in the 2011 to 2016 National Human Resource Development Strategy. Ms. Walks says the NVQ will help to standardize local qualifications and make it easier for them to be compared with regional qualifications. Her comments came as she delivered remarks at the opening ceremony for the final Stakeholders Forum on the design and development of the National Qualifications Framework at Ammon Bay in Hastings.
In Barbados, tertiary educational providers offer a certificate of participation, a certificate of attendance, certificate of completion, and certificate of achievement. At this level, the duration may range from 1 day to as much as 1 year. There may or may not be an assessment component, and the complexity of the programs or the course of study leading to the award of the certificate may differ across Barbados and even within institutions.
The Transport Board is tonight apologizing to Barbadians for the ongoing issues in its service delivery. In a press release, the board says these challenges will probably continue in the coming weeks up to the end of August. But the board says when the new changes are fully implemented, the challenges being experienced at present will be addressed. The board is asking Barbadians to be patient and to work with it to help improve its quality of service.